The front door of my house swung open with such force that the hinges groaned in protest. It was 2 in the afternoon on a typical Tuesday, and I was folding clean laundry in my bedroom when I suddenly heard Marcus's furious footsteps storming through the house like a hurricane. "Mom, where are you?" His voice echoed throughout the house with a rage I hadn't heard since he was a teenager. I left the shirts on the bed and stepped into the hallway. My son, now 42 years old, was standing in the living room, his face flushed and fists clenched. His green eyes, inherited from his father, pierced me with a coldness that made my blood run cold. "Why did Chloe call me crying, saying you changed the password on your card? She was at the grocery store and couldn't pay for her shopping. You humiliated her in front of everyone." I froze in the doorway, rooted to the spot. 70 years of life had taught me to remain calm in difficult situations. But this was different. This was my own son shouting at me in my own home. "Marcus, lower your voice. We're educated people." My tone was steady yet calm. "Yes, I changed the password on my card because it's mine. Yours? Mom, we're family. You can't just block our access whenever we need something." He took 2 steps closer to me, and for the first time in my life, I felt a knot of fear tighten in my stomach. "The card is in my name, Marcus. It's my money." "Your money? Seriously? Do you really plan to be that selfish?" His words shot at me like darts. Chloe was just shopping for the house. Food, cleaning supplies, ordinary stuff. I knew that wasn't the whole truth. I had checked my statements last week. $200 on makeup, $300 on clothes, $500 at a fancy restaurant. But I chose not to bring it up at that moment. "Son, if you need money for something specific, we can discuss it like adults. But I won't leave my card with no password for just anyone to use." "Just anyone? Are you calling my wife? Just anyone?" His voice rose another notch. "She's your daughter-in-law. She is part of this family." I sat down in my favorite armchair, the same one where I had breastfed Marcus 40 years ago. I needed to keep my composure, even though my entire body was trembling. "Chloe is always welcome in this house, but my credit card is not a family resource." Marcus paced the living room like a caged animal, his shoes pounding the hardwood with every step. He was sweating despite the air conditioning. "I can't believe what I'm hearing. You've been generous your whole life, always helping everyone. And now that your own family needs support, you're acting like a miser." That word hurt more than any scream. Miser. I, who raised this man alone after his father died. I, who worked double shifts for years to pay for his college. I, who gave him the down payment for his apartment. "Marcus, I will not let you talk to me like that in my own home." "Then give me a coherent explanation. Why would you change the password overnight without informing anyone?" I rose from the armchair. My back protested, but I needed to stand for this conversation because I had reviewed my statements and discovered expenses I didn't recognize. A significant amount of money had been withdrawn from my card without my authorization. "All those expenses were supposed to have been discussed with you." "No, Marcus, they were not." He fell silent for the first time since his arrival. His breathing grew heavy, and the veins in his neck became prominent against his dark skin. "Chloe told me she always asked you before using the card." "Chloe is lying." The words escaped my mouth before I could stop them. The ensuing silence was thick and oppressive. Marcus looked at me as if I had just slapped him. "I won't let you insult my wife." "I'm not insulting her. I'm speaking the truth. The truth is you're becoming paranoid. Perhaps it's time for someone else to manage your finances." Those words struck me like a lightning bolt. My own son suggesting I wasn't capable of managing my own money, my own son doubting my mental capacity. "I think you need to leave, Marcus. I'm not leaving until we fix this. Give me the new password right now." "No, son." I said no. I held his gaze. "This is my house and my decision. If Chloe needs something, she can ask me directly." Marcus headed for the door but stopped before he went out. His voice was colder than ice. "This isn't over. We'll talk again when you get over your tantrum. It's not a tantrum, Marcus. It's a decision. It's foolish, and you're going to regret it when you see how this affects our relationship." His words hung in the air like a threat. My own son threatening to cut off our relationship if I didn't give him access to my money. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm warning you. Chloe is very hurt by your attitude. I don't know if she'll want to see you after this. Then that will be her decision. Marcus shook his head with contempt. You know what? You're right. This is your decision, and we will make ours. The door shut with a dry thud behind him. I was left alone in the living room, trembling. The begonias on the patio still needed water, but I no longer had the strength to water them. I moved to the window and watched Marcus's car drive away down the street. The tires squealed as he turned the corner too quickly. 40 years of motherhood, and it all boiled down to this: my only son shouting at me for protecting my own money. The house's silence felt different after he left. It wasn't the peaceful quiet of the morning, but something denser, heavier, as if the very air had changed. I sank back into my armchair and closed my eyes. The conversation echoed in my mind like a broken record. Marcus's words, his tone, his fury, all over a password, all to defend my own credit card. But deep down, I knew it wasn't really about the password. It was about control. It was about boundaries. It was about the fact that for the first time in years, I had said no. The phone rang once, then twice. I let the answering machine pick up. It was Chloe, her shrill voice piercing through the silence of my home. Sylvia, I know you're there. I hope you're happy with what you've done. Marcus is devastated. I don't understand why you're acting like this with us. We're your family. Click. The line went dead. I took a deep breath and opened my eyes. The clock on the wall read 3:30. The day had begun normally with laundry to fold and plants to water. Now it felt as if I had lived an entire week in just 2 hours. I stood up and moved into the kitchen. I was hungry, but more than that, I needed to do something with my hands. Cooking had always been my sanctuary during tough times. As I peeled potatoes for a late lunch, I couldn't stop thinking about Marcus's expression. The anger in his eyes was nothing new, but the coldness was. It felt as if he had looked right through me and decided I was no longer deserving of his respect. Yet that bright afternoon marked only the start of the nightmare I was about to endure. For 3 decades, my daily routine had been my anchor. I would rise at 6 a.m., brew coffee in the same coffee maker my husband had gifted me before his passing, and check on the plants outside while the sun was just beginning to warm the tiles. It was a life that was well organized, predictable, and secure. After Robert's funeral, when Marcus was only 12, I realized that structure was the only thing keeping us mentally stable. Regular meal times, study hours, bedtime, strict rules, and firm boundaries. That's what I believed would raise a good man. Our 2-story house had been our sanctuary for 40 years. Robert had purchased it when I was pregnant with Marcus, taking out a loan we paid off over 2 decades. Every room held a story. Every corner was filled with memories. The backyard where Marcus first learned to walk. The kitchen where I had prepared countless family meals. The living room where we celebrated every birthday was a place filled with memories. The neighbors knew me as the woman who always had time to lend a hand. When Miss Carter fell ill, I brought her food for 2 months. When the Perez family's son needed money for school, I lent them $500 without charging interest. My generosity had become my way of honoring Robert's memory. Marcus was always a good son, studious, respectful, affectionate. When he turned 25 and landed his first job as an accountant, I felt a deep pride. All my sacrifices had been worthwhile. For years, we made a perfect team. He took care of my taxes, I cooked for him on Sundays, and we visited each other regularly. Everything changed the day he met Chloe. The first time he introduced her to me, I was in the kitchen making mac and cheese. Marcus entered with a smile I hadn't seen since his teenage years, holding the hand of a slender blonde woman with perfectly manicured nails and clothes that cost more than my monthly salary. "Mom, this is Chloe, the woman of my life," he said. Chloe greeted me with a perfect smile and gleaming white teeth, yet her eyes scrutinized me from head to toe, as if I were an obstacle she needed to eliminate. Her handshake was strong but devoid of warmth. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Johnson. Marcus talks about you all the time," she said. During dinner, Chloe complimented my cooking, inquired about my garden, and showed genuine interest in our family photographs. She appeared sincerely eager to get to know us. When they departed that evening, I believed I had found a suitable daughter-in-law. The following visits were equally enjoyable. Chloe brought me flowers, helped with the dishes, and shared amusing stories about her job at the upscale clothing boutique downtown. Marcus seemed content, and that was all I cared about. The wedding was intimate yet elegant. I covered half the cost without them even asking. He was my only son, my only chance to be a mother of the groom. Chloe handled everything: the dress, the flowers, the menu, the music. I simply signed the checks and smiled for the photographs. During the first few months of their marriage, the Sunday visits continued regularly. Marcus and Chloe would come over for lunch, sharing stories about their new married life, and I enjoyed having him nearby. The house felt lively again, reminiscent of the times when Marcus was a boy. The initial favors began innocently enough. Sylvia, could you lend us some money? We're a bit short this month due to apartment expenses. Chloe spoke to me in a gentle, almost shy tone. It's $200. We'll pay you back on Friday. I handed them the money without hesitation. It was $200. I had enough savings and they were just starting their life together. It was normal for young couples to face financial difficulties early on. Friday arrived, but the money was not returned. Instead, another request came. Mom, can you lend us 300 more? Chloe needs clothes for work, and I won't get my bonus until next month. First 300, then 500, and eventually more. Always with the same promise: we'll pay you back soon. Always with the same excuse: we're a little tight this month. After 6 months, my loans amounted to nearly $5,000. When I mentioned this during a Sunday lunch, Marcus became uneasy. Mom, you know we're going to pay you back. I don't see why you're keeping such detailed records. We're family. Of course, we're family, son, but $5,000 isn't. Chloe stepped in with her most charming smile. Sylvia, you're right. We've been lax with the repayments. How about I give you my credit card as collateral? I didn't want her credit card. I wanted my money. Yet I accepted because I didn't know how to negotiate with my own family. A week later, Chloe called me in a desperate voice. Sylvia, I have an emergency. My card is blocked and I need to buy medicine for my mom. Can I borrow yours just for today? I lent her my card, thinking it would be just for a day, just for medicine. That night, I checked my statement online, 150 T at the pharmacy. Perfect, I thought. But there were other charges as well: $80 on cosmetics, $200 on clothes, and $30 at an upscale restaurant. The next day, when I confronted Chloe, she tearfully apologized. I'm so sorry, Sylvia. I was at the mall and saw some incredible sales, and I thought it would be okay. I'll pay you back tomorrow. However, she neither repaid me the following day, nor the next week, nor the month after that. Still, she continued to ask to borrow my card, citing emergencies: her sister's birthday, shoes needed for a wedding, Marcus's anniversary gift, always urgent situations, with promises of immediate repayment. Over the course of a year, I lost track of how much money had been withdrawn from my card. My savings steadily diminished each month, yet every attempt to discuss it was met with guilt by Marcus. Mom, I don't understand why you're being so petty with us. You have enough money, and we're trying to get ahead. The word petty haunted me for weeks. Our Sunday visit grew increasingly tense. I would cook, they would eat, but the conversations always centered around money: unpaid bills, unexpected expenses, missed opportunities due to lack of cash. If we had a better car, I could get a better job, Chloe would say while fiddling with her new phone. If we could move to a nicer neighborhood, our quality of life would improve, Marcus would add while serving himself a third helping of my stew. I listened quietly, aware that their words were veiled requests for more money. One afternoon, as I reviewed my bank statements, I uncovered a fact that sent a shiver down my spine. Over the past 6 months, I had spent more than I earned from my retirement fund. My life savings were disappearing to support Marcus and Chloe's extravagant lifestyle. That night, I couldn't find sleep. I stayed awake until dawn, tallying how much money I had lost, how much they owed me, and how much longer I could keep up this charade before everything collapsed. For the first time in 30 years, my morning routine failed to bring me peace. The coffee tasted bitter, the plants appeared wilted, and the silence in my house felt like a sentence. Something had to change, but I didn't know how to face my own family without destroying everything we had built together. The following months turned into a slow torture of small lies and significant losses. Each week brought a new crisis. Every emergency required my card, and each swipe of my card transformed into expenses I hadn't authorized. Sylvia, I need your card to buy medicine for Marcus. He has an infection and needs expensive antibiotics, Chloe would say in a worried voice. An hour later, my phone would receive notifications of $400 spent at clothing stores. When I confronted her, she always had an explanation. I forgot to mention I also needed new underwear. Mine are really old and Marcus complained. I'm $400 on underwear. It was a special sale. 3 pieces for the price of one. I couldn't resist the chance. There was always an excuse, a reason why the extra cost was justified, whether sensible or unavoidable. And I, who had raised an honest son, began to question my own judgment. Our Sunday visits turned into financial review sessions. Chloe would arrive with a mental list of upcoming expenses that needed my support. Marcus's cousin was getting married next month. We needed new clothes for the wedding. Marcus's cousin. I knew my son better than anyone. He was an only child. His first cousin was like a sister to him. Marcus would simply nod without lifting his eyes from his plate. His silence had become a form of complicity. I need $500 for a dress and shoes, Chloe continued. I can't show up looking shabby. His family is very elegant. $500 for a cousin's wedding I didn't even know to impress people I didn't care about. But whenever I tried to refuse, Marcus would step in with his new approach. Emotional guilt. Mom, you don't understand how important this is for us. We are in the process of building our social reputation. My livelihood depends heavily on the connections I establish at these gatherings. Conversely, his job as an accountant at a mid-sized firm didn't rely on social ties, but I found myself struggling to argue with them without sounding like a miserly old woman. One Thursday afternoon, while I was watering the plants on the patio, my phone rang. It was my bank. Mrs. Johnson, we are calling to verify an unusual transaction on your credit card, a balloon $200 purchase at an electronics store. Can you confirm if you authorized this? $200. An electronics store. I hadn't bought any electronics. Was the purchase made at Tech World in the City Mall? Do you approve it? No, I do not. I am canceling that transaction. Please block my card and send me a new one within 5 business days. I ended the call with trembling hands. $200. Chloe had been using my card since Tuesday to buy medicine for her headache. 20 minutes later, the phone rang again. Sylvia, what did you do? My card is blocked, and I'm in the middle of the grocery store with a full cart. It's not your card, Chloe. It's my card, and I blocked it because there were unauthorized purchases. Unauthorized purchases? All the purchases I made were necessary. Were electronics necessary? Silence. On the other end of the line, then a nervous laugh. Oh, that Marcus needed a new computer for work. His broke, and he couldn't wait. Why didn't you consult with me before making such a big purchase? Because we knew you would say no. You always find excuses not to help us when we really need something important. The accusation hit me like a slap. I, who had been financing their luxurious lifestyle for 2 years, was now the villain for protecting my own money. Chloe, go home. We'll talk when you get here. I can't go home. My card is full of food and I can't pay for it. You come here and bring cash. I hung up the phone. For the next hour, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Chloe, Marcus, Chloe again. I let all the calls go to the answering machine, needing time to think. I took out all my bank statements from the past 6 months and laid them out on the dining room table. The numbers didn't lie. In January, I had $45,000 in savings. By June, $26,000 had vanished in just half a year. I meticulously reviewed every transaction, every charge, every purchase. Expensive restaurants, designer clothes, perfumes, shoes, handbags, beauty treatments, weekend trips. Nothing Chloe had bought with my money was a basic necessity. The sound of the front door opening interrupted my thoughts. Marcus and Chloe entered my house without knocking, as if they owned the place. Mom, what happened with the card? Marcus asked, appearing more exhausted than angry. I had blocked it after discovering charges I hadn't authorized. Chloe sat down on my sofa without invitation, her arms crossed in a defiant stance. Sylvia, all those purchases were discussed with you. You can't simply block the card every time you forget something. I didn't forget anything, Chloe. A 200 dots computer is a significant amount of money to not discuss with me first. I did consult you. I told you Marcus needed new equipment for work. No, you didn't. You told me you needed money for medicine. Marcus sighed and sat down in the armchair opposite me. Mom, sometimes emergencies change things. Yes, he needed medicine, but when I arrived at the electronics store, they were having incredible sales. I couldn't pass up the opportunity. Incredible sales on a $200 computer. The computer usually costs $2,000. It was a bargain. I looked at him. My son, whom I raised to be honest and responsible, is justifying an impulsive purchase of over $1,000 as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Marcus, that computer was not an emergency. It was a luxury. It's not a luxury, it's a work tool. Then pay for it with your work money. Chloe stood up from the sofa dramatically. I knew you were going to react like this. You always find a way to make us feel bad for asking for help. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I just want you to respect my money. Your money is always your own. We're family, Sylvia. Family money is for the whole family. My money is mine, Chloe. I worked for 40 years to earn it. Marcus stood up and started pacing around the living room. Mom, we understand your point, but you also need to understand ours. We're fighting to advance professionally, to improve our lives. Your support is crucial for us. I have supported you for 2 years, Marcus. I have spent more than $25,000 on you. $25,000? Chloe sounded offended. We haven't spent that much. I pointed to the paper spread out on the table. The statements are right here. See for yourself. Neither of them approached the table. Neither wanted to see the actual numbers. The point is, Marcus continued, that we need to know we can rely on you. Blocking the card without warning puts us in humiliating situations. Humiliating? Yes, Mom. Humiliating. Do you know how Chloe felt when her card was declined in front of everyone at the grocery store? It wasn't her personal card. It was the family card. Those words echoed in my mind, the family card. My money had become community property without my approval. I think I needed some time to think. Time to think about what? Chloe sounded impatient. If you want to keep lending us your card, of course you're going to keep lending it, Marcus said, genuinely surprised that it was even an option. We're your family. I rose from the chair and moved toward the window. My garden looked beautiful in the afternoon sunlight. The red beonas were blooming, the white geranium stood strong, and the bougainvillea was climbing the fence. Everything I had cultivated with my own hands was thriving. Why couldn't my relationship with my son be just as beautiful? I want you to leave for today, I said without turning around. Mom, please, I need to be alone. I heard their footsteps heading for the door. Before he left, Marcus paused. We hope you reconsider your position. We don't want this to affect our relationship. The door closed softly behind him. This time there were no slamming doors or screams, only the quiet sound of my dreams of a perfect family gradually falling apart. Little did I realize this was merely the beginning of something far worse. For 3 days, my house was shrouded in an unsettling silence. There were no calls from Marcus asking for money, no surprise visits from Chloe with new emergencies. It was as if they had decided to give me some time to reconsider my decision to block the card. On Friday morning, while I sipped coffee on the patio, I finally decided it was time to confront reality fully. I had spent 2 years avoiding a detailed review of my finances, blindly trusting my family. Now I needed to see the true extent of the damage. I sat at my computer and logged into my online bank account. The number on the screen hit me like a punch to the stomach. 2 years ago, I had $45,000. Now, over $25,000 had vanished. I reviewed every statement from the past 24 months. The printer operated for 20 minutes, continuously producing pages filled with numbers that revealed the story of my own naivety. I laid everything out on the dining room table and began to organize. There were reasonable grocery expenses, occasional visits to acceptable restaurants, but then there was everything else. In March, I spent 500 Sachslings at a jewelry store, even though I hadn't bought any jewelry. In April, I spent $700 on women's clothing, which I never wear. In May, I paid $300 at a spa, a place I never visit. June saw $1,000 spent on electronics, although I barely know how to operate my basic phone. In July, I spent $800 on perfumes and cosmetics, though my perfume cost only $30 and lasts 6 months. The list continued, page after page. Every month contained purchases I didn't recall authorizing, expenses on items I would never use, money spent in places I had never visited. I picked up my phone book and dialed my bank's number. Good morning, Mrs. Johnson. How can I assist you? I require detailed information on all my credit card transactions from the past 2 years. Could you provide me with a comprehensive report? Certainly. Is there a particular issue with your account? I've noticed some transactions I don't recognize. I understand. We will send you the complete report via certified mail within 3 business days. I also suggest checking if anyone else has had access to your card. Someone else? After I hung up, I went to my room and opened the lockbox where I stored my important documents, my passport, house deeds, insurance policies, and at the bottom, I found something that sent a shiver down my spine. A copy of my credit card. I picked it up with trembling hands. It was a clear photocopy of both sides of my card, including the 3-digit security code on the back. In the bottom corner, there was a note written in Chloe's handwriting. For emergencies. C. When had she made that copy? When had she been in my room without my knowledge? Since when did she have unrestricted access to my financial information? The phone rang. It was Chloe. Sylvia, how are you? I've missed you these past few days. Her voice was sweet, reminiscent of the first few months after the wedding. It was the tone she used when she wanted something. I'm fine, Chloe. Good to hear from you. Hey, I have a small question. Do you remember your card security number? I want to buy something online and I don't have the card with me. The world froze. She had a copy of my card and now she was asking for the security code as if it was nothing, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Where is my card, Chloe? I have it, of course, as always. Didn't you give it to me to hold on to a few months ago for emergencies? I didn't recall giving her my card permanently. I remembered temporary loans, one-day favors, specific emergencies. But according to Chloe, I had authorized her to keep my card indefinitely. Chloe, I need you to return my card. Why? Did something bad happen? I need to have it with me. But Sylvia, how are we going to handle emergencies? We'll have to bother you every time we need something urgent. Yes, you'll have to ask for my permission every time. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. You know what? We'd better talk in person. I'm coming over. No, Chloe, just give me my card back. I'm coming over, she repeated and hung up. 20 minutes later, I heard Marcus's car pulling up in front of my house. This time, they didn't come shouting or banging. They rang the doorbell like regular visitors. I opened the door and saw Chloe alone, smiling as if nothing had happened. Hi, Sylvia. Can I come in? I let her in, even though every instinct warned me not to. She sat on the sofa and took my credit card out of her purse. Here's your card, but before I return it, I think we need to talk. She placed it on the coffee table but didn't push it toward me. Talk about what? About why you suddenly don't trust us. About why you're acting like we're strangers. About why you've changed so much. I haven't changed, Chloe. I'm just protecting my money. Protecting your money from what? From us. From your own family. She stood up and began walking around my living room, touching the photo frames and adjusting the sofa cushions as if it were her own home. Sylvia, you know Marcus and I love you very much. You know we would never do anything to hurt you. But lately it seems like you see us as enemies. I don't see you as enemies. I just want to know exactly how my money is being spent. Exactly. She turned to me with a wounded look. Don't you trust my judgment? After 2 years of being married to your son, you still think I'm a stranger. You're not a stranger, Chloe. But my money is still mine. She sat down again, this time closer to me. Look, Sylvia, I understand you feel uneasy. It's natural. When a woman reaches a certain age, it's common for her to become more cautious with money. A certain age. The phrase lingered in the air like a subtle threat. What do you mean by that? Nothing serious, of course. It's just that sometimes older people worry excessively about minor issues. They become a little paranoid. Paranoid? The same word Marcus had used. Paranoid for wanting to control my own credit card. Paranoid for believing your family is stealing from you. The words left her mouth so effortlessly that I needed a moment to process them. Stealing. She had used the word stealing. Who mentioned stealing? You did, Sylvia, through your actions, blocking the card, requesting detailed reports, treating us like criminals. What is that if not accusing us of theft? I rose from the sofa. I needed some physical distance from this conversation. Chloe, I just want my card back. Of course. Here it is. She finally pushed the card toward me. I took it and slipped it into my blouse pocket. But Sylvia, she continued softly, I hope you understand that this will make things more complicated for everyone. Every time we face an emergency, we'll need to bother you. Whenever something urgent arises, you'll have to go out of your way to assist us. That's okay. I can manage that, are you certain? Because sometimes emergencies happen at odd hours. Occasionally, we require assistance when you're asleep or unable to leave the house. Was she threatening me or simply describing realistic scenarios? We will handle each situation as it occurs. Chloe nodded slowly. All right, if that's your decision, she stood up to leave. I just hope you won't regret it once you realize how complicated things will become. I accompanied her to the door. Before leaving, she turned back to me. You know what the saddest part of all this is, Sylvia? That after 2 years of treating you like my own mother, you now see me as a stranger. That hurts a lot. Her eyes filled with tears. For a moment, I almost felt guilty. Almost. I don't see you as a stranger, Chloe. I see you as my son's wife, but not as family. You really are family, but my money is still mine. She nodded sadly and left my house. That night, I couldn't sleep. Chloe's words replayed in my mind. Was I being paranoid? Was it normal for a 70-year-old woman to want to control her own money? Or was I really becoming a distrustful old woman? I took out the copy of my card I had found in my lockbox. I studied it under the light of my bedside lamp. It was a perfect, clear, usable copy. Someone had planned this, and then I understood the truth. I wasn't becoming paranoid. I had been too trusting. But I didn't know that the worst was yet to come. On Monday morning, the detailed report from my bank arrived by certified mail. 5 pages of transactions laid out the full story of how I had lost $25,000 over the course of 2 years. Each entry included a date, time, location, and amount, resembling a diary of a life that wasn't mine. Sitting at the dining room table with a cup of coffee, I began to scrutinize each line. What I uncovered was staggering. There were transactions made while I was sleeping, purchases at stores I had never visited, expenses in cities I had never been to, and most unsettling of all, cash withdrawals from ATMs at 3 a.m. in the morning. How could someone withdraw money at that hour if I was in my bed? I immediately dialed Marcus's number, needing an explanation before my mind conjured up theories I was reluctant to face. Hello, Mom. How are you, Marcus? I need to ask you something important. Sure, what's up? I said. My card has been used when I wasn't there. There was a long pause before he responded. What exactly do you mean? I explained, I mean, it was used without my knowledge while I was at home. Mom, you authorized us to use the card in case of emergencies. Sometimes emergencies don't wait for convenient hours. Money was withdrawn from ATMs at 3 in the morning. That was one time we needed cash urgently for a taxi after dinner. We stayed out late and didn't have any on us. There was also a report indicating that it happened 6 times over the past 3 months. Mom, I'm not going to keep a detailed log of every emergency just to report back to you like we're children. His tone had become defensive and impatient. Marcus said, it's 6 withdrawals of $300 each, totaling $1,800 in cash. And all of them were for legitimate expenses. I don't understand why you suddenly treat us like criminals. I'm not treating you like criminals, I replied. I just want to understand how my money was spent. You know what, Mom? I think we need a serious conversation. Chloe and I are coming over. Before I could finish, the line went dead. I was left holding the phone, my stomach twisting with unease. I was dreading another confrontation, but I knew it was only a matter of time. As I waited for them to arrive, I kept reviewing the report. Suddenly, I found something that made me feel physically ill. 2 simultaneous transactions at different locations. One was at an expensive restaurant, and the other at a clothing store just 12 meters away at the exact same time. It was impossible for a single person to have made both purchases, which clearly indicated that someone had made additional copies of my card. 40 minutes later, Marcus and Chloe entered my house. This time, they didn't ring the doorbell. Instead, they used the key I had given them years ago for emergencies. Mom, we need to talk, Marcus said before sitting down. Chloe looked different, less conciliatory, more resolute. She sat across from me with her arms crossed. Sylvia, this is getting out of control, she began. Your suspicions, your accusations, your obsessive review of every expense. It's not normal. It's not normal to want to know how my own money is being spent. It's not normal to treat your family like they're scammers, Marcus interjected. I placed the bank report on the table. Explain this to me. 2 purchases made simultaneously at different locations. Marcus took the sheets and quickly examined them. What purchases? On Friday, April 15th, a $200 charge at the Grand Table restaurant at 8 p.m., and at the same time, a $300 purchase at Elegance Boutique. Chloe and Marcus exchanged a quick glance. Oh, that, Chloe said casually. I was dining at the restaurant, and Marcus was buying me a surprise gift at the boutique. We used both cards at the same time so I wouldn't find out about the surprise. Both cards, your card and my card, Marcus clarified. But my card was blocked that day, so I had to use yours for the gift as well. The explanation sounded rehearsed, too perfect. But I had no way to prove they were lying. How many copies of my card exist? Copies? Chloe seemed genuinely confused. What copies? I took out the photocopy I had found in my lockbox, this copy with your handwriting on it. Chloe took it and examined it as if she were seeing it for the first time. Oh yeah, I made this copy months ago, so I'd have the numbers in case I lost the original card in an emergency. Is that wrong? Did you make more copies? No, of course not. Why would I? To make simultaneous purchases in different places. Marcus stood up from his chair. Mom, stop. We can't take these accusations anymore. They're not accusations, Marcus. They're legitimate questions about my own money. They're accusations of fraud. You're accusing us of stealing. I just want explanations. Chloe also rose and approached me. Sylvia, do you know how much this hurts us? Do you know how it feels for your own mother-in-law to think you're a thief? Her eyes filled with tears. But this time, they didn't affect me. I just want the truth. The truth is you're getting paranoid, Marcus yelled. The truth is that every time we ask for your help, you make us feel like criminals. The truth is, Chloe continued in a trembling voice, we're considering distancing ourselves from you until you seek professional help. Professional help? Yes, Mom. Marcus relaxed slightly. I think you should see a doctor. These personality shifts, this paranoia, this distrust of your own family, it's abnormal. My personality hasn't changed. I'm just protecting my money, Chloe insisted. Your personality has changed. Before you were generous, loving, trusting us. Now you're suspicious, stingy. You treat us badly. Stingy for not wanting to give away $25,000. It hasn't been $25,000, Marcus argued. He took all the bank statements and spread them out on the table. The numbers are right here. Count it yourself. Neither of them even glanced at the papers. I'm not going to partake in this obsession of yours with keeping precise records of every favor you've done for us, Marcus said. Favors, he added dismissively. $25,000 are favors. Yes, favors from a mother to her son. That's what normal families do. Normal families don't hide copies of credit cards. Chloe picked up the photocopy from the table. Do you want me to tear it up? Will that make you feel better? She asked, tearing the paper into small pieces and letting them fall onto the table. There. Are you happy now? How many other copies did you make? None. I didn't make any other copies. Then explain the late night withdrawals. I already explained the late night withdrawals. Marcus stepped closer and placed his hand on my shoulder. Mom, this has to stop. You're destroying our family relationships for money. I'm not destroying them. I'm just protecting them. Protecting them from what? From us? Chloe said softly. Protecting my finances. Your money isn't in danger with us, she added. Your money is in danger with you. Do you know how many people your age lose all their savings by making wrong decisions? Wrong decisions like trusting you, wrong decisions like isolating yourself from your family out of paranoia can lead to serious consequences. Marcus removed his hand from my shoulder. Mom, I have a proposal for you. Give us one last chance to prove we are worthy of your trust. Let us access your card for one more month. If by the end of this period, you're not completely satisfied with how we've managed the expenses, we will never ask you for money again. Chloe nodded eagerly. That's an excellent idea. We'll show you that you can trust us. I looked at both of them, my son and my daughter-in-law, asking for one final opportunity to demonstrate their honesty. It sounded reasonable. It seemed like something a normal family would do, but something in their eyes told me it wasn't a request. It was a demand masked as a favor. I need some time to think. I think about what, Mom? About whether you trust your own family, about whether I am making a mistake. Marcus sighed. All right, take your time. But in the meantime, we will also take some time. What does that mean? It signifies that until you decide to trust us again, we will maintain our distance. We don't want to continue feeling like criminals with every visit. They headed for the door. Before leaving, Chloe turned back. I hope that when you reconsider everything, you realize that we are the only thing you have. Without family, money holds no value. The door closed behind them, leaving me alone with the scattered papers on the table and the burden of a decision I didn't know how to make. Was I a paranoid mother destroying her family bonds for money? Or was I an older woman being manipulated by her own family? I couldn't determine which of these scenarios frightened me more. For a week, I didn't hear from Marcus or Chloe. The silence felt strange after 2 years of constant calls asking for money, surprise visits, and urgent emergencies that required my credit card. For the first time in a long while, my phone didn't ring every day. At first, the quiet was a relief. I was able to water my plants without interruptions, read my book in peace, and cook for myself without the concern of preparing extra portions. However, after 5 days, it started to feel like a form of punishment. Was this their intention? To isolate me until I succumbed to their demands? On Saturday morning, while organizing my closet, I stumbled upon something that made me pause. At the bottom of the last drawer, wrapped in an old handkerchief, lay the pearl necklace Robert had given me for our 10th anniversary. I hadn't worn it in years. I took it out and held it up to the light. The pearls remained stunning, perfect, and intact after so many years. I recalled the night Robert first placed it around my neck, his hands trembling slightly as he struggled with the clasp. He told me, "For the strongest woman I know, so you never forget your worth." My worth? When had I begun to doubt it? I decided to put on the necklace and leave the house. I needed fresh air. I needed to see people. I needed to remember that a world existed beyond this situation, with Marcus and Chloe. I went to the downtown farmers market where I had been buying vegetables for 20 years. Mr. Garcia, the owner of the fruit stand, greeted me with his usual wrinkled smile. "Mrs. Johnson, it's so good to see you." "How have you been?" "I've been okay, Mr. Garcia. A little worried lately, but I'm fine." "Worried about what? Your health? Your family?" He nodded with understanding. "Families can be complicated. I have 5 children, and each one gives me a different headache. Did you ever feel that your kids saw you only as a source of money?" Mr. Garcia stopped arranging the oranges and looked at me directly. "Mrs. Johnson, are you experiencing something like that? I don't know if I'm exaggerating or if it's really happening. Would you like some advice from someone who has lived 75 years? I nodded. When your own instincts tell you that something isn't right, trust them. A mother's instincts never lie. His words lingered with me all the way home. A mother's intuition is never wrong. That afternoon, while I was watering the begonias, my phone rang. It was Marcus. "Hello, Mom. How are you?" "Hello, son. I'm fine. And you?" "We've been thinking a lot. Chloe and I discussed the entire situation and reached a conclusion." "What conclusion?" "That maybe you're right to want more control over your money, that perhaps we've been too relaxed about the financial matters." I was taken aback. I hadn't anticipated that response. "I'm glad to hear that, Marcus. So we want to suggest something different. Instead of using your card, we'd like you to give us a fixed amount each month, like an allowance. That way, you'll know exactly how much you're giving us, and we'll know what we can rely on." "An allowance?" "Yes. An amount you consider reasonable for our expenses. We were thinking maybe $1,500 a month." $500 a month, $18,000 a year for expenses they deem necessary. Marcus, $1,500 is a lot of money. It's less than we've spent on average these past few months. We believed it would be a way to reduce expenses and give you more control. Why do you need $1,500 a month if both of you are employed? Because we are trying to develop professionally. We need suitable clothing for work. We must uphold certain social standards. We need to invest in our future, and our current salaries are insufficient for that. Mom, our incomes barely cover the rent and basic groceries. Everything else requires additional support. Perhaps you should consider cutting back on your expenses. A long pause followed. Do you want us to live as if we're poor? I want you to live within your means. Our means include having a mother who can support our growth. I don't understand why you suddenly expect us to struggle on our own when you have the resources to make our lives easier. Because those aren't my lives, Marcus. They are your lives. We are family. My life and yours are interconnected. His tone had shifted. The conversation was once again drifting into familiar territory. Marcus, I'm not going to give you $1,500 a month. Then how much? 1,000? I don't know. I need to think about it. Think about it, Mom. We've been waiting a week for an answer, and I've been spending money uncontrollably for 2 years. I need time to decide how to proceed. You know what? Forget it. Forget the whole proposal. Marcus, no, Mom. We're not going to beg for your help anymore. Chloe was right. There are other options. What other options? Options that don't involve begging my own mother for money. He hung up before I could reply. That night, I couldn't sleep. What did he mean by other options? What was Marcus talking about? On Monday morning, I found out. I was having breakfast when someone knocked at the door. It was a young man in a suit carrying a briefcase. Mrs. Sylvia Johnson? Yes, I am. I'm Mr. Roberts from the law firm of Hayes and Associates. Your son, Marcus Johnson, has engaged our services to evaluate your mental and financial capacity. I felt as though the ground had vanished beneath my feet. Forgive me. Your son is worried about your mental health. According to him, you have exhibited signs of paranoia, confusion, and unpredictable decision making. He is contemplating starting a legal process to secure guardianship over your finances. Guardianship, yes, ma'am. It is a procedure where a judge determines whether you are capable of managing your own financial affairs or if someone else should handle them for you. Someone like my son. Precisely. I sat down in the armchair because my legs could no longer support me. What steps should I take to defend myself? First, I recommend hiring a lawyer. Second, you should undergo medical examinations to establish your mental capacity. Third, you need to collect evidence demonstrating that you manage your finances responsibly. How much time do I have? If they decide to proceed officially, I will receive an official summons with 30 days to respond. The man left, leaving me alone with the realization that my own son was contemplating legal action to seize control of my finances. My own son. That afternoon, I called my neighbor, Alma Davis. I had known her for 15 years, but we had never developed a close friendship. Still, I needed someone to talk to, and she always seemed like a sensible woman. Alma, could you come over? I need some advice. Of course, Sylvia. I'll be right there. When she arrived, I confided in her about everything: the loans that had become permanent, the credit card they never returned, the unauthorized purchases, the threat of legal guardianship, everything. Elma listened quietly, nodding occasionally without passing judgment. You know what I think, Sylvia? She asked. What? I replied. I believe your son and his wife are systematically manipulating you, and now that you're starting to defend yourself, they are escalating their tactics to more aggressive measures. You believe I am being manipulated? I'm certain of it, and I know you're not the first older woman this has happened to. What should I do? Fight with every legal tool at my disposal? I won't let them take my money or my dignity. And what if I lose my son in the process? Elma took my hands. Sylvia, you have already lost your son. The Marcus you raised, the one who respected you, who was grateful for your sacrifices. That Marcus no longer exists. What you have now is a stranger who wants your money and is willing to have you declared incompetent to get it. Her words hit me like a punch to the chest, but at the same time, they felt like a liberation. She was right. My son was already gone. Do you know a good lawyer? I know the best lawyer in the city for these kinds of cases. His name is Vincent Harris. He specializes in defending older adults against family financial abuse. Vincent Harris. The name was engraved in my mind. Can you give me his number? I can do you one better. I'll go with you to his office tomorrow. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully, not because my problems had vanished, but because I had finally made the decision to fight back. My son had chosen money over me. Now I was going to prioritize my dignity instead of him. On Tuesday morning, Alme accompanied me to the law office downtown. Vincent Harris proved to be a man in his 60s, with gray hair, intelligent eyes, and a calm manner of speaking that immediately instilled confidence in me. Mrs. Johnson, please tell me exactly what has been happening, he said as he took notes in a yellow pad. I recounted everything from the beginning: the loans that had never been repaid, the credit card used without my knowledge, the unauthorized copies, the late night withdrawals, and finally the threat of legal guardianship. Do you have documentation of all these transactions? I have all the bank statements and the detailed report I requested last week. Excellent. Have you ever signed a document granting your son or his wife permanent authorization to use your card? Never. Have you ever authorized them to make copies of your card? Never. Vincent stopped writing and looked directly at me. Mrs. Johnson, what you're describing is family financial abuse. It's a crime. And we also have civil options to recover your money. How common is this? More common than people realize. The most frequent victims are older women with savings who trust family members, who then gradually appropriate their resources. How will we proceed? First, we will protect you from the guardianship lawsuit. Second, we will thoroughly document the financial abuse. Third, we will work to recover your money. And fourth, we will ensure this doesn't happen again. I felt a sense of relief. For the first time in months, I finally had someone on my side who understood the situation. How much will all this cost? My fee is $3,000, but I see it as an investment to recover $25,000. I signed the contract that same day. Over the following week, Vincent and his team worked diligently. They obtained security camera footage from the stores where my card had been used. They traced the IP addresses associated with the online transactions and documented every unauthorized charge. What they uncovered was worse than I had expected. Mrs. Johnson, Vincent explained during our second meeting, not only had they used your card without permission, but they also created fake credit accounts using your personal details. Fake credit accounts? Yes. 3 additional credit cards, all in your name, but delivered to your son's address. The statements revealed they had accumulated nearly $15,000 in extra debt. $15,000 in debt I was unaware of. My heart pounded. How could that be possible? They had access to all your personal information, your social security number, date of birth, bank details. With that data, applying for credit online becomes relatively simple. This means I owe that money. Not necessarily. We intend to contest all those accounts as instances of identity fraud, but we must act quickly. That afternoon, Vincent accompanied me to submit fraud reports to the 3 credit bureaus. Additionally, we filed a criminal complaint for identity theft and financial abuse. What will happen next? Your son will receive a notification indicating that you are disputing the debts and have initiated criminal proceedings. They will likely contact you to try to reach an agreement. An agreement? They will attempt to persuade you to drop the charges in exchange for promises of payment. Do not accept anything without consulting me first. He was right. On Friday night, my phone rang. It was Marcus. Mom, what have you done? His voice sounded different, fearful, desperate. I've protected my finances, son. We received a court summons. We're being accused of fraud because you committed fraud. We didn't commit fraud. We're your family. Everything we did was with your knowledge. No, Marcus, it was not with my knowledge. Mom, you need to drop these charges. They will destroy our lives. You already ruined mine. Please, we'll repay everything. Just drop the charges. With what money will you pay me back 25,000 sous? We will find the money. We'll take out a loan. We'll sell some things. Whatever it takes. And what about the $15,000 in credit cards you opened in my name? There was silence on the other end of the line. How do you know about those cards? Because I hired a lawyer, Marcus. Because I investigated what you really did, Mom. Those cards were for real emergencies. Chloe needed expensive medical treatments at clothing stores and costly restaurants. Not all the purchases were frivolous, but all of them were fraud. Marcus started to cry. It was the first time I had heard him cry since he was a child. Mom, please, we are your family. You can't destroy us for money. You already destroyed me for money. We'll pay everything back. Just give me one chance. You have already had 2 years of opportunities. Just one more chance, please. No, Marcus. Then this will be a declaration of war. His tone shifted completely. The tears were replaced by cold detachment. War. If you refuse to drop the charges, we will proceed with the guardianship lawsuit. We will demonstrate that you are losing your mental faculties. We will bring witnesses who will testify that you have been acting erratically. What witnesses? Neighbors? Shopkeepers? People who have observed your paranoid behavior? My actions are not paranoid, they are defensive. A judge will decide that. He hung up the phone. The following day, the actual war commenced. First, the phone calls began. Marcus, Chloe, unknown numbers, all leaving messages on my answering machine. Some were pleading, others threatening, all trying to persuade me to drop the charges. Then the visit started. Marcus would arrive at different times of the day, knocking persistently and shouting from the street that he only wanted to talk. Chloe sent her friends to knock on my door under false pretenses. One afternoon, as I was watering the plants on the patio, I heard voices coming from the street. 3 women I didn't recognize were standing in front of my house talking loudly. That's the house of the lady who's accusing her own son of theft. How embarrassing. Sometimes children face financial difficulties and need support. At that age, it's normal for them to become suspicious. My grandmother also became like that before she didn't finish the sentence, but the message was obvious. They were spreading rumors about my mental health. I called Vincent. They're doing exactly what I anticipated, he said. They're trying to craft a story that portrays you as mentally unfit. It's a common tactic in such cases. What should we do? Document everything? Record the conversations? Take photos of the unwanted visits? Keep a record of all the harassment? We will use it against them. That night, someone vandalized my car. 2 words in red spray paint, crazy miser. The message was unmistakable. While I pursued legal action, they resorted to psychological warfare. I called Elma to inform her of what was happening. Sylvia, you can't stay in that house alone. Come stay with me until this is over, I urged. I'm not going to let them drive me out of my own home. Eventually, she agreed and stayed with me. That night, Elma slept on my sofa. Her presence brought me a sense of calm, yet it also filled me with sadness. At 70 years old, I felt I needed protection from my own family. At 3:00 a.m., my phone rang. I answered, thinking it might be an emergency. Chloe's voice, distorted as if speaking through a handkerchief, said, I hope you're happy, Sylvia. I hope you're happy destroying a family for dirty money. Dirty money? I echoed. The money your husband made from illegal business? You think we don't know where your savings really came from? I asked. What are you saying? I demanded. She responded quickly. Ask the people in the neighborhood what kind of man your husband was. Ask them what they thought of his late night business. Before I could reply, she hung up. Robert had been an accountant. He had worked at the same office for 20 years. He had never engaged in late night business or accumulated ill-gotten gains. Yet now I realized how far they were willing to go to ruin my reputation. They were tarnishing the memory of my late husband. Elma, I whispered into the darkness, I believe this situation will worsen before it begins to improve. I know, she responded from the sofa, but we will stand together. For the first time in months, I didn't feel entirely alone. I had Elma, I had Vincent, and I had the truth on my side. Still, I wasn't sure if that would be enough to withstand the desperation of those who had lost access to my money and were prepared to do anything to recover it. The court hearing was set for a Tuesday in March. During the 2 weeks leading up to it, Vincent and his team worked tirelessly to prepare my defense. There were documents, testimonies, forensic evidence of fraudulent transactions, and, to my surprise, other victims. Mrs. Johnson, your case has prompted a broader investigation, Vincent explained in his office. Over the past 2 years, we've identified three similar cases involving families employing the same methods: gradual financial exploitation, followed by guardianship lawsuits when the victim tries to defend themselves. Your bravery in coming forward is encouraging others to do the same. On the day of the hearing, I arrived at the courthouse with Vincent and Elma. In the courtroom, Marcus and Chloe waited with their lawyer, a young man dressed in an expensive suit who kept reviewing documents without pause. When our eyes met, Marcus immediately looked away. Chloe stared at me with a coldness that made my hands tremble. The judge, a man in his 50s with a stern expression, examined all the documents before starting the proceedings. The hearing lasted 3 hours. Vincent carefully laid out all the evidence: the 25,000 dollars in unauthorized purchases, the 3 credit cards fraudulently opened, the late night cash withdrawals, and the unauthorized copies of my card. Every transaction was meticulously recorded with details of the date, time, location, and amount. Marcus's lawyer attempted to argue that all transactions had been verbally authorized, claiming I had given permission for the use of my financial information and that my lawsuit stemmed from age-related mental confusion. As evidence, he presented testimonies from two individuals who supposedly observed changes in my behavior. However, Vincent had prepared a shocking surprise. He had obtained security camera footage from several stores where my card had been used. The footage clearly showed Chloe using my card while I was allegedly at home. Additionally, he had phone records indicating that during some of those purchases, I was speaking on the phone from my home landline, which made it impossible for me to have been at the stores. The most persuasive evidence was the testimony of my family doctor, Dr. Paul Rodriguez, who had been my physician for 15 years. He testified that my medical and neurological examinations over the past 2 years demonstrated a completely normal mental capacity for someone of my age, with no signs of cognitive decline, dementia, or any condition that could impair my ability to make financial decisions. When the judge asked me to testify, I rose to my feet with trembling legs but spoke in a steady voice. I describe how it all began with small loans that I never repaid, how they gradually gained control over my credit card, how copies were made without my consent, and how, when I finally attempted to safeguard my finances, they threatened to take legal control of my funds. Mrs. Johnson, the judge inquired, did you at any point specifically authorize your son or his wife to open credit accounts in your name? Never, Your Honor. I never authorized any additional credit accounts. Did you know these accounts existed before you engaged your lawyer? I was completely unaware of their existence. I only found out about the $50,000 debt when Mr. Harris examined my financial situation. When Marcus testified, his account shifted multiple times. Initially, he claimed I had verbally approved everything. Later, he admitted that some purchases had been impulsive decisions. Ultimately, he acknowledged that additional credit accounts had been opened without my direct knowledge, but insisted they were for legitimate family expenses. The judge cut him off coldly. Mr. Johnson, regardless of your intentions, opening credit accounts using another person's personal information without explicit authorization constitutes identity fraud, a federal offense. The judge's ruling was firm and unequivocal. He not only dismissed the guardianship lawsuit entirely, but also ordered Marcus and Chloe to immediately repay the $25,000 I had documented, along with interest and legal costs. Additionally, he mandated the immediate closure of the 3 fraudulent accounts and the removal of that debt from my credit history. As if that wasn't enough, he issued a restraining order that prevented them from contacting me directly for a year, and any future communication had to go through lawyers. The documented behavior in this case, the judge stated, reflects a consistent pattern of family financial abuse. The evidence clearly shows that Mrs. Johnson is fully mentally competent and that her actions to safeguard her finances were justified and necessary. The guardianship lawsuit not only lacks any grounds, but also seems to have been filed as a tactic of intimidation to retain unauthorized access to the plaintiff's financial assets. When we exited the courtroom, Vincent explained that the process of recovering the funds could take several months, but the court order legally required them to start payments immediately. If they failed to comply, they would face additional charges for contempt of court. That evening, in the calm of my home, I settled into my favorite armchair with a cup of tea and gazed out the window at my garden. The red begonias were blooming splendidly, and the white geraniums were growing strong. Everything I had nurtured with love continued to thrive. For the first time in 2 years, my money was secure. My house was protected. My future was once again in my own hands. Yet alongside this relief came a profound sadness. I had won the legal battle, recovered my funds, and preserved my dignity. But I had lost my son, Marcus, the boy I had raised, the child I had breastfed in that very armchair, the young man I had supported for years. That Marcus was gone forever, replaced by a stranger who was willing to declare me mentally incompetent to access my own money. Justice had prevailed, but my mother's heart remained shattered. 6 months after the hearing, my life had begun to find a new normal. The payments ordered by the judge arrived punctually each month, and my bank account gradually regained its strength. More importantly, I had regained my peace of mind. Vincent diligently ensured that Marcus and Chloe adhered to the court order. Over those months of legal proceedings, our conversations grew beyond just legal matters. I learned that Vincent had been a widower for 5 years, that he had 3 adult children living in different cities, and that he shared my passion for gardening. "How do you get your bougainvillea to grow so beautifully?" he asked one afternoon as we reviewed the latest payment documents on my patio. "Patience and constant care," I answered. Like everything truly valuable in life, his visits became more frequent and less formal. He would arrive with excuses about reviewing documents, but would end up staying for coffee, and we would talk about books, politics, memories of our marriages, and plans for the future. He made me feel appreciated, not for my wealth, but for who I was as a person. One Sunday afternoon in October, as we sat together sharing tea and homemade cookies, Vincent took my hand. "Sylvia, these months with you have been the happiest I've experienced since losing my wife. You've restored my hope that life can still be beautiful at our age. And you've renewed my confidence that genuine people exist who don't seek to take advantage of me." Does it sound crazy that a 62-year-old lawyer is contemplating falling in love with his 70-year-old client? It feels wonderful that a woman of 70 is experiencing butterflies in her stomach like a schoolgirl. 6 months later, we married in a small, intimate ceremony. Only the two of us attended, with Elma as my witness, Vincent's brother as his, and the judge who officiated the marriage. It was perfect in its simplicity. Vincent moved into my house, bringing his law books, his plants, and a quiet happiness that filled every room. Together, we transformed Robert's study into our shared library. We also planted new flowers in the garden side by side. We established routines that brought us both joy. In the afternoons, while I was cooking, Vincent was working on pro bono cases, assisting other elderly individuals who had fallen victim to family financial abuse. It had become his specialty after handling my case, and he found profound fulfillment in protecting those who were vulnerable. Every case I win, he would tell me, is a victory for human dignity. 6 months after my marriage to Vincent, Marcus tried to reach out to me once. He called one afternoon, his voice sounding exhausted and defeated. "Mom, I know I'm not supposed to call you, but I needed to tell you something," he said. "Marcus, you know you can't talk to me directly. I just want to say I'm sorry. Chloe and I are getting divorced. She left with another man, taking everything we managed to save after the lawsuit. Now I have no money, no wife, and no mother to support her plans." I felt a pang of maternal pain, but I was no longer the same woman who had been manipulated for 2 years. "Marcus, I'm sorry you're going through this, but decisions carry consequences. Can you ever forgive me?" "I have already forgiven you, son, but forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. And it certainly doesn't mean returning to how things were before. Perhaps in the future, we might have some kind of relationship, maybe when you've truly demonstrated that you've changed, not just that you need money again. That was the last time we spoke. I heard from others that Marcus had moved to another city, that he had found a modest job, and that he was trying to rebuild his life from scratch. Part of me, the mother I will always be, hopes that someday he'll find a way to become the man I believed I had raised. But I no longer wait around. I no longer put my life on hold, hoping someone else will change. Now I have a fulfilling life with Vincent. We travel, we read together, we care for our garden. Our visits come from his children whenever they are in town. We built a relationship founded on mutual respect, sincere affection, and the simple pleasure of sharing the final years of our lives with someone who truly values us. At 72, I realized that it is never too late to stand up for your dignity. It's never too late to say no. It's never too late to begin anew. I lost a great deal of money and my only son in the process, yet I gained something far more precious: my freedom, my self respect, and the possibility of experiencing genuine love at the most unexpected stage of my life. Every morning, I wake up in my own house with my money secure in my own account next to a man who loves me for who I am, not for what I possess. This victory is sweeter than I ever thought possible. Life has shown me that sometimes to gain everything, you must first be willing to lose everything. Did you enjoy my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's connect in the comments. If you enjoyed the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks, which will help me continue sharing more stories like this. I truly appreciate your kind support. I look forward to reading your comments about the story. On the screen, you will see two new life stories that I highly recommend. There is much more available on my channel, so don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story.